John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Series testing, successful hunting. I've got a really cool, innovative, crazy-looking broadhead to test here today. It's the Project 1 by Mohican Sneak. This is weird looking, okay? But maybe it's gonna be weirdly awesome. So let's zoom on in here and go through some of the design features and specifications. And then I'm gonna put it to the test using all the tests that I'm using for my new regimen in 2022. And for a description of all those tests and why I do them and how they work, as well as the way that each broadhead scores in those tests, please read about that in the description box below this video. And then at the end of the video, I'll post the overall score and I'll post the corresponding golden arrow Lusk grade that it gets. But read through the report and the score sheet in the description box to see all the details. And as always, so far this year, I'm using my Bowtech SR6 set at 72 pounds, and I'm using Bishop FOC King arrows for most of the shots. For really hard impact ones, I'm using the Bishop Fag Eliminators. So let's zoom in and check out the Project 1 by Mohican Sneak. Here's a good look at the Mohican Sneak. What a cool looking broadhead this is. This is the kind of broadhead you just want to look at for a little while, okay, to try to figure out. So this is a 2-blade, fixed blade broadhead. Those blades are not just kind of hanging there. They didn't swing in that position. That's their actual starting and ending position. And the design is such that the cutting edges are staggered. So as it penetrates, this leading blade and tip, which is sharpened all the way around, penetrates first. And then this second blade begins to penetrate. And they say that's just to increase its penetrating ability by staggering the blades like that. In addition, each of the blades are single bevel. So they're single bevel, actually on both sides. They're sharpened on the back and on the front. And that single bevel is gonna make maybe a circular wound channel. They hope, I have to test that out. It's gonna cause some rotation and make that wound a little bit more difficult to close up. Now the cutting diameter here is a full 2.5 inches. And that's on impact because these don't open or close. This is a fixed blade broadhead. So you're getting a full 2.5 inches of cut from the get-go. The ferrule is aluminum. I'm not sure what kind, but it's aluminum, and the blades are stainless steel, 0.040 inches thick. And like I said, they're also sharpened on the back in a single bevel fashion. That will make them a little bit easier to pull out of a target. And if they're lodged in an animal, sometimes as an animal moves, the arrow tends to back out of the animal. If it does that with this broadhead, it's going to be cutting tissue as it backs out. Now, I will note that as I was looking at this broadhead, one of the blades, it's going to be hard to see, okay, in the camera here, but this, you can see it a little bit. This top blade is curved, and the others aren't like that. That's not by design. That's just some kind of quality control thing. It's curved. This one is not curved. It just goes, you know, straight down. You can see it lined up with the arrow shaft, whereas this one has a gentle bend to it. So, not sure what to make about that. But anyway, I'm really eager to put this head to the test. I'm curious about the flight, and I'm curious about the durability. Without a chisel tip, and it looks like just one set screw holding this leading blade in place, I'm curious. That better be a strong set screw right there to hold it in place. But love the innovation and am eager to see how the actual performance turns out. Let's check out the Mohican Sneak. I have a few obstacles today that are changing the way that I'm doing this test. First of all is the weather. I just can't get out where I normally do because of the weather. And then also, I'm down to only one broadhead because the other two broke in some of the tests that you'll see later in this video. So I'm down to one broadhead, and I don't want to shoot it really far because I'm not sure how it's going to fly. So I'm going to shoot here one of the broadheads and one field point at 25 yards. Wow, that hit way to the right on the edge of the target. That's more like it. So the broadhead hit way to the right, But man, check out the hole that this thing made. I mean, it just cut like an axe through my target. That's impressive. Let's try it again. Still hitting to the right. $250. It penetrated 5.5 inches. Check out this entrance hole, the full 2.5 inches as expected. Now, the head didn't rotate much in the gel, and it actually lost a blade. Let me show you that here. So here's the head after penetration test 1, and unfortunately it lost a blade in the gel after it passed through that 2/3 inch of rubber foam mat and the 1/2 inch of MDF. It's really rare that that happens. I think it's only happened a couple times in all of the different tests that I've done. And it was as I feared, which was interesting, that this main blade broke off. Actually, the blade is in perfect shape, but it broke off at this pin. So the pin that holds it in place at the top somehow broke off or got dislodged in some way, causing the blade to just fall out. So it's rare that penetration test 1 turns into the durability test because it's not intended to do that. But since the durability test is actually shooting it into a 1/2 inch of MDF, that's what happened, and unfortunately it didn't pass. So it's just going to get a score of 2 points on the durability test because it did make it through that 1/2 inch of MDF, and the ferrule is in good shape, but it lost a blade. $275. It penetrated through 52 layers, and that's quite a bit considering its cut size. I wondered if it'd be able to do well on the angled shot, and actually it did, but unfortunately it lost a blade on that angled shot. And in this instance, it looks like the blade just completely broke off inside my target. So I had a 1/4 inch of MDF followed by my target beyond that. And I don't know if it broke off when I was pulling it out or it broke off as it was going in, but I just know when I pulled it out, it only had 1 blade. Okay, so man, in 2 of the tests, the penetration test and the angled test, those are not intended to be durability tests, and yet in both of those different tests, it lost a blade. So what'd you think of the Broadhead? Man, I gotta tell you, I love the innovation, I love the creativity, I love the cut size. Wow, when you see just the swath that it cuts in gel or in cardboard or in my target, man, really impressive. I can imagine that's going to do some serious damage on an animal that it hits. The durability was very questionable. It's rare that I have a head break in penetration test 1, and it's really rare that I have one break on an angled shot through just a 1/4 inch of MDF, and yet it did on both of those. So the durability was really disappointing. I couldn't go on and do the other remaining durability tests. There's no point to, because it didn't even make it through those. And then the flight, you know, it's very rare that a Broadhead does not fly extremely well out of my bow and my setup. And I wasn't able to go to my normal place to shoot because the weather's just so cold, and there was a bit of a wind. So wind could have played a factor in that. There was like a 15-mile-an-hour crosswind. Yet I was only shooting out to 25 yards because that's the maximum distance I could get in this spot. And it was relatively protected from the wind. And yet I shot it a few times. I have 2 here in the video, and each time it was quite a bit to the right. So this test for flight this year, I'm commenting on flight forgiveness, not just flight overall, because everybody's bow is different and so forth. And so in my opinion, this is not a very forgiving head when it comes to flight. Doesn't mean you can't get it to fly well out of your bow. Doesn't mean that I couldn't get it to fly well out of my bow if I really tried. But just testing it like I do all the other heads, it was quite a bit challenged in terms of flight forgiveness. So you look through the score sheet and see what you think about the areas that matter to you the most. And again, the score sheet is all in the description box and the outline, the breakdown of how I came to those scores. And stay tuned here for the overall score, the cumulative score, and the Lusk grade.